It's in the middle of summer here at 63 degrees north, and it's time to summarize the 25-26 astrophotography season. So join me for some summer cleaning of the observatory, and let's review all of the images that I captured last season, and stick around to the end. I have a surprise of what's to come for observatory upgrades for the next season. My name is Morten, and you are watching Frost Astrophotography. Every summer I try to do a deep clean of the observatory, get rid of that unwanted dust, grass, insects that might have crawled up and perhaps died in the observatory, getting it ready for the next season. Perhaps also do a deeper clean of the telescope and the gear. This year I'm going to remove everything, including the mount. And why? I will tell you at the end of this video, where I will let you in on the secret of what's to be installed in the observatory for the next season. But for now, let's take a look at some statistics and, of course, all of the images that I produced with captured data from the observatory. It is time to go through some statistics from the astrophotography season of 2025-2026. As you can see here, we don't have astronomical darkness during the summer at 63 degrees north. There's not even a possibility of seeing any stars whatsoever. The season started at September 13th. That is one extra day compared to the season before. It ended April 19th, and that is actually 22 extra days compared to the season before. But those last few days did not have astronomical darkness, only nautical darkness. But that was okay, I used it to do some narrowband imaging. The equipment used for deep sky imaging the season that has passed is the Skywatcher HEQ5 Pro with the Rowan belt mod, the EvoStar 80ED Pro and the EvoGuide 50ED, and I use the Play 1 Poseidon M Pro camera together with the ASI 120mm Mini Guide camera. To that I use the ZWO-E-AF and the Play 1 Phoenix filter wheel 7-position 2-inch together with the S-series 2-inch filters for LRGB and SHO narrowband. This equipment is of course mounted in my miniature home observatory with a roll-off roof and automation, all mounted on a 250mm concrete pier with a do-it-yourself pier adapter from a disc brake. I also have a Flatmaster 150 for my flats, and everything is controlled through Nina, installed on a B-Link miniature PC. I also have some equipment for landscape or astroscape, and that is the mirrorless Sony a7 IV together with the Sony FE 16mm f1.8G ultra-wide lens and the Sigma 2470 f2.8G zoom lens. For this equipment I use the Inorel RT80C or Inorel RT40C tripods. For video I use the same camera together with the Rode Wireless Go microphone or the Sony CV-1 Mark II camera. And for that I also have the Sony ECM G1 microphone and the GP VPT3 grip and remote. If needed I also have a Feiyutech Scorp 3 gimbal, and I use the same tripods for this. Let's look at some statistics here. We can see that I managed to get 35 imaging sessions this season. That is a little bit lower than 45 last season, but the weather was not as good. I was able to do 12 objects or gather data for 12 objects, and that was 11 last season. I had a total of 1,703 light frames. That is a bit down. I had 2,283 light frames last season. A total integration time of 139 hours. That is also down from 190 hours. The object with the most integration time this season was the Flying Bat and Giant Squid, racking up 26 hours, most of it at the end of the season without astro darkness. Taking a look at the individual light frames, this season I only used 300-second light frames, 5-minute light frames, and that was all of them, 1,703. Last season I also took some 120-second light frames. Looking at the filter usage this season, I took 40 light frames without any filter, and that was actually with my mirrorless Sony camera, photographing the Comet A6 Lemmon. Last season I had none. I took 39 light frames with the luminance filter, but no light frames with RGB this season whatsoever, so I don't actually have any RGB images this season. But last season I took 53 with luminance, 32 with red, 32 with green, and 32 with blue. The narrowband light frames are 387 with the S2, 691 with the HA, and 546 with the O3. That is of course lower than the last season, but I didn't get as much time this season, so it is natural. The average numbers for sessions and objects, I took 49 frames per session in average. I had an average integration time per session of 4 hours, and I have 142 frames per object in average, and an average integration time per object of 11.6 hours. It is good to know that these numbers are actually the data that I keep. The data that I don't keep is not included in the statistics here, and I started this last season. Before that, I counted everything that I gathered, regardless of me keeping it or not, but nowadays I only count the data that I actually keep and that is usable to make an image. So the integration time of 4 hours per session might seem low here, but that is after removing everything that I was not happy with in regards of star size, clouds, or any other phenomenon that might impair the quality of the data. Looking at the all-time statistics then for the astrophotography hobby for me, starting back in 2021, late autumn, I have 154 imaging sessions, 45 objects, 9,113 light frames, and a total integration time of 665 hours. Hoping to get much more in the future, of course. Let's look at equipment upgrades this season, the season that passed, that is, not the upcoming season. I swapped out my camera, going from the 294mm Pro to the Player One Astronomy Poseidon M Pro IMX571 monochrome cooled camera. I also swapped out my ZWO filters and filter wheel for the Player One Phoenix filter wheel 7 position 2-inch and the S series of filters. I also upgraded with the SVBony SV241 power and USB hub. Did I do any projects or modifications this season? Well, a few minor adjustments to the stability of the support for the roof for my miniature home observatory. I did some ground insulation. I did some new cable management on my telescope. And I optimized my power supply with the SVBony hub. Let's look at some fun YouTube facts for those of you that might be interested in that. And this is from June 1st, 2025 to the last of May 2026. I did 25 videos, a little bit more than the season before. I had almost 90,000 views. That is also up from around 65,000 views. I have almost 7,000 view hours, also up from 4,607 hours. And the views from subscribers are about the same, 23.2%. The view from non-subscribers is also about the same, 76.8%. I gained 936 new subscribers this year or the season past. And I just want to say to all of you, I'm very grateful for all of my subscribers and for all of the non-subscribers, for all of my viewers in general, keeping with this channel, making it worth the while for me to make videos for you, and I find that very rewarding. Looking at the video with the most views for the last season, it was the Stellarium with Sky Survey's 12,956 views, racking up a total of 1,563 view hours. Looking at the all-time for this channel, it is still the ZWO-EAF automatic focuser video with a total of 20,116 views. But the video with the most view hours is still the Skywatcher HEQ5 Hypertune video with a total of 2,431 view hours. That was the statistics from the past season. Do you want to see any other numbers or any other statistics? Or do you think this is way too much information and completely useless? Or do you have any other thoughts or ideas? Please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will consider that for the next season summary video. Now it is time to dive into all of the images that I produced last season, so enjoy those. The Cave Nebula sits about 2,400 light-years away in the constellation Cepheus, and it's actually 3 nebulae rolled into one. You've got emission gas glowing red from ionized hydrogen, blue reflection dust scattering starlight, and dark nebula lanes cutting through the middle like someone took a brush and painted shadows across the frame. That dark edge is what gives it the cave look. The bright rim is being sculpted by radiation from the hot young stars of the Cepheus OB3 Association. Fun fact, the cave is also catalogued as Caldwell 9, one of Sir Patrick Moore's personal picks from the best deep sky objects. And it's enormous. The nebula spans about 35 light-years across. For perspective, if you could see it with the naked eye, it would appear larger than the full moon. I started the season with a reprocessing of an older image, just because there were so much more to bring out from the data already collected. It's a classic SHO target, strong in HA, decent O3 signal and the reflection areas, and subtle but rewarding S2 structure if you push the integration time. I continued to explore old data, just because the season started off bad in terms of weather conditions. CTB-1 is a supernova remnant, not a star-forming region, but a graveyard. About 10,000 years ago, a massive star in Cassiopeia detonated, and what you're seeing now is the expanding shell of that explosion, still glowing from the heat of the shockwave as it plows into interstellar gas. Fun fact. It's nicknamed the Medulla Nebula because it looks like a brain. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Those filamentary loops genuinely resemble the fold of a human brain. And here's the wild part. It's enormous in the sky, about half a degree across, the same apparent size as the full moon. But it's so incredibly faint that most amateurs never attempt it. The real challenge here is that CTB-1 is primarily an O3 target sitting in a rich hydrogen field. Separating the faint blue oxygen signal from the background HA took most of the integration time, but it came together in PixInsight. Early season through-wave curveball, a Comet C 2025A6 Lemmon was discovered on January 3, 2025 by the Mount Lemmon survey in Arizona, and by October it had brightened enough to become a legitimate astrophotography target. It made its closest approach to Earth on October 21st at roughly 89 million kilometers, about 0.6 AU. Fun fact, this comet is on a 1,351-year orbit. The last time it passed through the inner solar system, the Vikings were still raiding European coastlines. And after this visit, it won't return until around the year 3376. So this image is genuinely once in a civilization. Imaging a comet is a completely different discipline from deep sky. It moves against the star field fast. You have to decide. Do you track on the comet and let the stars trail, or track on the stars and stack the comets separately? I did both, then composited them. That dual processing workflow was a fun detour from the usual narrowband routine. For this time, I used my normal mirrorless Sony camera. The Western Veil is a part of the most famous supernova remnants in the sky, the Veil Nebula complex in Cygnus. This is NGC 6960, the western arc, and it's draped right across the bright foreground star 52 Cygni, which makes for one of the most striking compositions in deep sky imaging. The entire Veil complex is the wreckage of a star that exploded somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 years ago, and it's still expanding at about 1.5 million kilometers per hour. Fun fact, the Veil Nebula is so large that the full complex spans about 3 degrees, 6 full moons across, and it's only 2,400 light-years away, which is practically next door. The nebula was massive enough that if humans had existed at the time of the explosion, it would have been brighter than Venus in the night sky and possibly visible during the day. What makes the Western Veil so rewarding in narrowband is the intricate O3 filaments. Those wispy tendrils running through the frame aren't smooth clouds. They're shock fronts, like the ripples from a cosmic explosion frozen in time. Getting those oxygen details to pop against the HA background was the processing challenge here. This was the first real test of the Player One Astronomy Poseidon M Pro camera, and it delivered more than expected. NGC 1491 in Perseus, the Fossil Footprint Nebula. This is an H2 region, an emission nebula sitting almost 11,000 light-years away. What's shaping it is a massive, extremely hot young star and its core that's blasting the surrounding gas with intense ultraviolet radiation, creating that distinct footprint-shaped glow. Fun fact, some imagers call this the Little Pac-Man Nebula because of its resemblance to the much more famous NGC 281. And if you look closely at the central region, you can actually see structures that look like toe impressions, hence the fossil footprint name. It's one of those rare targets where the nickname genuinely matches what you see. This was an early season target for me, one of the final tests after the observatory upgrade. It is a reliable HA target with good structure, and I used it to verify that the new automation setup in Nina was running clean across multiple nights. 7 sessions, 17 hours in total. It also gave me a chance to dial in the new focusing routine before moving on to the harder stuff. IC 1396 is a massive star-forming region in Cepheus, about 2,400 light-years away, and the elephant's trunk is the most famous feature within it, a dark, long pillar of dense gas and dust being sculptured by the radiation and stellar winds from the young massive stars nearby. The entire IC 1396 complex spans about 3 degrees, absolutely enormous, and it's ionized primarily by the bright star HT 206267 at its center. Fun fact, the elephant's trunk itself is what astronomers call a cometary globule, a dense cloud that's being eroded on one side by radiation. That bright rim you see on the edge of the trunk, that's the ionization front, the point where radiation is actively eating into the cloud. And deep inside the dark pillar, new stars are likely forming right now, hidden from our view. We are watching stellar birth happen inside a cosmic elephant's trunk, And that's not even a metaphor, that's literally what's happening. I processed this one as a full SHO palette, and the trunk structure holds up beautifully across all 3 narrowband filters. The HA give you the broad structure, O3 traces of the ionized edge, and S2 fill in those deep red rim details. If you look carefully at the trunk tip, there's a small bright knot. That's a region where the radiation has almost completely isolated a small clump of gas. In a few million years, that clump will either collapse into a star or be evaporated completely. The Flaming Star Nebula in Auriga, and this target has one of the best backstories in all of astrophotography. The nebula is about 1,500 light-years away, and it's being lit up by a star called AE Aurigae, a massive hot O-type star that's not from around here. Fun fact, AE Aurigae is a runaway star. About 2,500 million years ago, it was born in the Orion Nebula, specifically in the Trapezium cluster, the heart of M42. Something happened, probably a close gravitational encounter with another massive star, and AE Aurigae got ejected at enormous speed. It's been hurling across the galaxy ever since, and it just happened to plow through a cloud of interstellar hydrogen in the constellation Aurigae. The star is just passing through. It's not associated with the nebula at all. It is lighting it up by coincidence. The Flaming Star Nebula exists because the star got kicked out of Orion and happened to crash into a gas cloud on the other side of the sky. The nebula itself is about 5 light-years across, discovered in 1892, and it's a unique mix, part emission nebula from the ultraviolet radiation ionizing hydrogen, part reflection nebula from starlight scattering of dust. Processing this was a balancing act, preserving the blue reflection component while letting the red HA emission dominate the flame-like structure. This was 19 hours across multiple nights. The runaway star story, what makes it special, and I built the entire narrative around that. NGC 2174 sits in the northern reaches of Orion, about 6,400 light-years away, and it's one of the most active star-forming regions accessible to amateur telescopes. This is a stellar nursery, a vast cloud of hydrogen gas collapsing into new stars, with the most massive ones already blasting cavities into the surrounding nebula with their intense radiation. Fun fact, Hubble imaged this target back in 2014 and revealed something incredible. Massive pillars of gas and dust inside the nebula sculpted into towel-like formations by the young stars. They're essentially the monkey's head version of the pillars of creation. And the entire nebula is larger than the full moon in the sky. We're talking about a structure dozens of light years across, churning with star birth, and you can capture it from your backyard with the right filters and enough patience. This was a mid-season image reprocessing. This is the Cosmic Zoo of Auriga. In one wide field, you have 3 separate deep sky objects, each with its own personality. IC 410, the Tadpoles, a star-forming region surrounding the open cluster NGC 1893, with those famous tadpole-shaped structures near the center. Just next to it, IC 417, the Spider, an emission nebula about 10,000 light-years away, and then NGC 1931, the Fly, a compact little nebula about 7,200 light-years out. That's essentially a miniature version of the Orion Nebula, same basic structure, same star formation activity, just much further away. Fun fact, those tadpoles in IC 410, they are about 10 light-years long. 10 light-years. and they're sites of ongoing star formation. The intense radiation from the young stars of NGC 1893 is eroding the gas around dense knots, creating those elongated tails that stream away from the cluster. Each tadpole is a nursery inside a nursery, and eventually the gas will evaporate and leave behind a small cluster of newborn stars. Second fun fact. NGC 1931, the Fly, is so compact that early observers thought it was a planetary nebula. It turned out to be a small H2 region harboring its own tiny star cluster, essentially an Orion nebula in miniature, 7,200 light-years away. If M42 were at that distance, it would look almost identical to NGC 1931. This was a 20-hour project. The wide field framing was the real challenge, getting all three targets to sit comfortably in the composition while maintaining enough resolution to show the tadpole structure in IC 410. Lowers Nebula sits on the outermost edge of the Orion arm of the Milky Way, right where Orion meets Gemini. It's a faint, sprawling region of ionized hydrogen, an H2 region, and distance estimates put it roughly 3,000 light-years away, though honestly, the numbers vary depending on who you ask. Fun fact. Lowers Nebula was discovered in 1939 by Harold Lower and his son Charles, amateur astronomers working from their home in San Diego. They built their own 8-inch f1 Schmidt camera, which for the 1930s was an extraordinary piece of engineering. Using that homemade instrument, they captured this nebula on a photographic plate. An amateur father and son team discovered a nebula that professional surveys had missed, and now, almost 90 years later, we are imaging it with narrowband filters and cooled astronomy cameras that they couldn't have dreamed of. That lineage matters to me. Amateurs have been pushing this hobby forward for generations. The nebula is ionized primarily by a runaway star, HD 41997, an 07.5 V-type star, so there's a theme this season: runaway stars lighting up nebulae they're just passing through. For Lowers, the challenge is the faintness. At 13 hours across 6 sessions, I was still fighting for signal. The HA came through clean, but O3 and S2 were marginal at best. Processing this was as much about noise management as it was about color. And then the crown jewel, 26 hours on the Flying Bat and Giant Squid. SH2-129 is the Flying Bat, a large faint emission nebula in Cepheus about 2,300 light-years away. It's an H2 region, mapped in hydrogen, large, diffuse, challenging, but doable. The Squid, OU4, is an entirely different story. Fun fact, the Giant Squid Nebula was discovered in 2011 by a French amateur astronomer named Nicolas Outers. 2011. That's not a typo. An amateur astrophotographer discovered a nebula that nobody had ever seen before, hiding inside an already known nebula simply because he was imaging SH2-129 and noticed a faint blue O3 signal that didn't match anything in the catalogs. The Squid is a bipolar outflow, a massive jet of material being ejected from a triple star system called HR8119 at its center. It spans about 50 light-years and it glows almost exclusively in O3. For years after its discovery, astronomers debated whether the Squid was actually associated with SH2-129 or just a chance alignment. More recent studies have confirmed that yes, the Squid really does lie within the Bat, roughly 2,300 light-years away, So what you're seeing is a hydrogen nebula with an oxygen jet punching through it. Two completely different physical structures superimposed in the same patch of sky. 26 hours, that's what it took at 63 degrees north to pull the squid out of the noise. The O3 signal was so faint that individual subframes showed almost nothing. Only when stacked and stretched did the tentacles emerge. This was the hardest image I've ever made, and it's also the one I'm proudest of. So, what am I going to install in the observatory, you might ask? Well, maybe this little box here gives you an idea. Let's open this bad boy up. This is actually the first time, or one of the first times, I'm looking at this baby. I just got it from the shipping company, and of course it is the ASCAR SQA106. On this I'm going to put my existing camera, the Play One Astronomy Poseidon M Pro, including the Phoenix filter wheel and the S-series LRGB and SHO filters. I'm going to mount the new ZWO EAFN focuser on here, and I'm going to mount the EvoGuide 50 ED that I'm keeping from last season, but on that guide scope I am mounting the Player One Xena 585M guide camera, and I'm very excited to see what I can get out of that. And now you might be wondering, what am I going to put this baby on? Yes, I am one of the 50 people that will get the ML Astro 1 harmonic mount, hopefully sometime late August, beginning of September. And I'm currently manufacturing a new pair adapter, and I will be adapting the observatory to accommodate that mount and this telescope. For that, I'm also installing a new mini PC, a more powerful one with Nina, and I will take you on that journey in a series of videos, hopefully starting soon after the release of this summary video. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to this channel if you're not already doing so. Until the next video, I wish you have clear skies.